Hey, wheat harvest continues, July 24th, 2019. Today I'm putting on the auger the Super 88 gasser, and birds flying in. I always like to tell the story of this tractor. That's why I'm doing it before I fire it up. We originally sold this from our dealership. Yeah, it's tough to make out, but Vernlosey and Son. Sold it to a farmer by the name of Milburn Bush, who lived about 2.5 miles from here. And he farmed with it for years, and then in the, I believe that was the mid-'80s, he passed away. They had an auction to sell off his stuff, and Dad bought this tractor back. So it got to come back to the original dealership. I always thought that was neat. But then a few years later, his wife decided to sell the farm. We ended up buying that farmer, I think it was 89 or 90. And of course, there's all sorts of things to do on a new piece of ground, clean it up, all that stuff. Super 88 got to go back to its original farm and pick rocks, and I do believe we planted some wheat with it over there. So it's kind of gotten to come home twice. Once back to the original dealer, and then once back to the original farm again. And just to show you how much green paint can be under things, the hood on this was all the same. Then I took, I think it was 1200 wet, sanded right here, and then hit it with some little bit of buffing compound, and just amazing how much color was still under there. Of course, now I got to do the whole tractor. Did a little bit on the yellow, and it was coming back pretty good. Oh, this dent was on there when we got her. Well, let's take her on out to the auger and get to work. This one's a 57, like the Super 77 from yesterday's video. So improved. Got the key switch for starting. Someone did, well, I'm sure the original owner, because it wasn't us, move the key switch. Normally it was under the dash, down in that hole right there. And it is kind of inconvenient, and if it gets loose, the key falls out. So they moved it up here where the push button for the starter used to be, and if you had a diesel, this is where the glow plug button would be. But since it's a gasser, there's an empty hole there. It does definitely make it more convenient. Push that choke back in and actually give it a little throttle. We replaced the tack on it when we got it. The previous one wasn't working. So that's how many hours we put on it since we bought it in the 80s. Not getting the earliest start today with running the wheat, but after last night's shot of rain, heavy dew, definitely want to give time for things to dry off. I'm hoping to get these wagons dumped from last night, run down there with them, and hopefully it's dry enough. If not, I guess I'll turn around and come back. It's been I don't know, it's been a few years since I've had any kind of load on this one, so this will be good for it. Blow all the cobwebs out. And it's pretty much got fresh gas. There was almost none left in it. I'd siphoned out what was in there to get it used up. That spot I buffed out really shows up once you get out in the sunshine. So before you go throwing new paint at stuff. Sometimes it's a little bit of elbow grease goes a long ways. Definitely cheaper than a multi-$1,000 paint job. Whoop. Dumped the clutch a little there. And we'll ease into it this time. I'm going to stop for a moment, hook that shaft up. All right, hooked up. Contrasty day. That's the kind of stuff that dries weed out. It definitely dried out, getting dried out towards the end of the day before that shot of rain came. There, we're stuffing her pretty good now. Footage later on. Time for the truth in video series. She's just purring along and just died like throwing shut the key off. Finally took a point file to the points and put her back together, and it's running now, so must be sitting around. The points got a little cruddy, and hopefully that's all it is. There's other tractors that take its place. That ends our truth in video segment. Thank you. Grain tank's full. It works out. Last pass in this field. It's a long trip to the next field. It's over there. Getting the second field opened up. My oats are right next to it, and yeah, they look ready from here. Get this wheat done, I'll be able to run my oats. And there's only 9 acres of oats. I just plant enough to have seed for a cover crop. I've had wheat and oats close together, but I almost think the oats beat the wheat ready this year. It's weird. But 2019's been a weird year. Yeah, putting it to it, I broke a shear bolt. It's all that Oliver power. I'll get that fixed. Back to work. All right, let's see if she can start a full auger. Come on. Never dull moment. Only a minor setback. Back to work. As you can tell from my shadow, the sun's getting low. I could be running a whole lot longer. I thought I'd tell something about this field. How my parents were first married. We lived right there. Not the place across the road, right in that wheat field. There used to be a house there. 2-story farmhouse. There were barns. Where I'm driving through right now is basically where the larger barn was. This livestock barn, if you want to call it that. There's another storage barn back there. The house was probably right about in there. So when I was first born, this is where I lived for about 2 years of my life. As the years wore on, the house fell into disrepair. My parents bought another chunk of land that had a house on it about 3 miles to the north and lived there for a few years until they got the house where my mom is now. And so we moved when I was around 2, maybe 3. Well before I don't ever remember living here. I do remember the house and stuff being right here. I was in high school or shortly after. We tore it down. It was in getting pretty sad shape. Worried about someone climbing in it and getting hurt or something like that. Plus, we were able to reclaim the ground and use it as field. Actually grows pretty good crops right in here. But probably all those years of having livestock, all the manure runoff, helped build up the ground. My windows are a lot dirtier after that shot of rain yesterday. Makes that dust stick. But I grew up in what is now a wheat field. Maybe I just crawled around in it. And then there's the electric pole to nowhere. For years there used to be a power line that went north and south along this way, and then there's this line that goes this way. And I thought they were connected. And 2-3 years ago, the electric company moved the north-south line that you can kind of see over there up to the road. They want to get more stuff out of the field so it's easier to service, which I was fine with. And that's when I realized that this line that goes east and west wasn't even electrically connected to the north-south line. We live at the junction of about 3 different grids. And so when they were taking this stuff out, I said, why don't you take that out all the way back to up to the neighbor's farm? Well, that's not in the budget. So I've still got poles out in my field that serve absolutely no purpose. This low dirt right here, this is some really nice dirt, black, kind of mucky stuff. Unfortunately, with all the rain we had this spring, not everything survived. But boy, it can grow some fantastic corn. There, maybe we go. Sun's shining in my mirror. See the electric pole to nowhere. A little better from this angle without the sun shining at us. Someday, hopefully, they'll take that out. Just a pain in the butt to work around something that doesn't need to be there. That's probably gonna be it for today. I'm gonna take the combine up tonight. It's getting where it needs fuel. It's only a half mile. You can see the silos. They were just past the trees. The farm is. That's a lot easier than throwing the tank in the truck, bringing fuel down here, pumping it into the combine, messing around with all that. Grease it up, check it over real good at home. Bring it back tomorrow. Deer have been bedding down in my wheat. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, so I plan on doing some more recording. Everybody seems to be enjoying what they're seeing, so I really appreciate everybody watching and commenting, and we'll see you again in the future. Thanks for watching.